So now life had changed completely, and for the first time I was alone with my thoughts. No work to distract me, no love to distract me. A loving son who could not have done any more for me, but I was on my own. And things started to change, starting with this nervous breakdown. As an adult, I have no memory of dreaming, no dreams of any kind, no nightmares or dreams of a more pleasing event or events. I always slept well and deeply, but must have suppressed my dreams. But now, having experienced this breakdown, for the first time in my life, I started to have vivid dreams, and I remembered them. The dreams were so vivid it was clear to me that they were in some way part of my healing. So I wrote them down and kept a diary in the order they appeared to me. The first one I wrote about I entitled The Fire. I was living in an open plan flat, a big room with a double bed, an open fire and a kitchen all in the same room. It was about 11 a.m. and I was making breakfast for my ex-wife who was in bed and sleepy. The fire was down to its embers, but I had plenty of fuel. I had logs and coal, and I said to her, "Shall I put some coal on the fire to keep it in?" And she said no, and she got out of bed and gave me a kiss. When I reflected back, it was clear that the fire was our marriage and the fuel was my love for her. The next dream is entitled The Party. My ex-wife and I went to a house party in a big old Victorian house. We got separated and it was busy, and I was trying to work my way through the crowd to find her, but I couldn't. I was carrying my shoes, which I'd taken off, and they were a nice pair of Nike trainers. I really liked them, but somehow I lost them or someone stole them, and the dream ended there. When I reflected back, when we were married, my wife and I had a lovely old Victorian house, and the more I thought about it, the more it became clear was that the trainers were a metaphor for our son. He loves Nike trainers, and through the breakdown of our marriage, whilst thankfully my son and I are still very close, we've lost time together, and the trainers in the dream were a metaphor for my boy and our lost time. The next dream I wrote about was entitled The Horse. It was at the time in my life when I was with the first love of my life, the time when my mum died. When I was very small, my blood father took me horse riding to a place called Wild's Farm at the end of Circular Drive in the Lake Estate, Chester, where I'm from. I could only have been 3 or 4 years old, and my abiding memory is that the horse bit me, but I also remember sitting on it. In the dream, a big black horse had hold of me by its teeth, and it made me sleep snuggled up to it. I was its companion, and it was mine. In the dream, I broke away from the horse, and I was with my girlfriend. She was looking out for my well-being, and she noticed that the horse was coming after me. On this news, I gave her and her young brother a hug and explained that I had to leave, and we parted. The rest of the dream was about my journey, and I remember at one point looking down from a bridge I was crossing and seeing a herd of black horses, and they were looking for me, trying to catch up with me. When I reflected back, it reads like a nightmare, but it didn't feel like one. I felt really happy and liberated. And in hindsight and reading it back, I think the horse represents the death of my mum and the trauma and depression that went with it and stayed with me or chased me the whole of my adult life. The next dream I wrote about was called The Emigration. I had emigrated to Australia on my own, and it was a nice area, and I seemed to be acquainted with the people around me through business but not personally. I had no memory of what I'd left behind or what assets I had. I just had this thing where I had to make life work. I had to make this venture work. I was starting again, and what had gone before had gone. When I reflected back, it was obvious to me that it was a metaphor for me leaving my family home and moving away after the breakdown of my marriage. More dreams to follow.